So great to see you guys here tonight. A room full with people excited about IT and IT recruitment, right? So we will talk about IT stuff in the next 2 hours or so, quite a lot. So hopefully you are keen to learn more about this kind of, some people say boring stuff, but I'm super excited about IT. And I would like to share some of the excitement with you, because once you get excited about IT, then you will see how much fun it is to recruit IT candidates, how much fun is it to engage with them, talk to them, sell them some of the IT opportunities, and eventually help them change the job and get a better career. So let's kick it off. I have prepared some slides, but those slides are not as important as what you have on your desks. So on your desks, you have a few mind maps that I printed out, a few documents that you can check later. And some of you purchased the premium ticket. So I have also the printed booklets for you guys. So do you guys remember who purchased the premium ticket? Yeah, one here. Okay. So it's for you. Please.
Thank you.
Where's the second and third? Okay, so I'll be referring to those mind maps quite a lot. I will share the presentation with you if you'd like to check afterward. And I would definitely encourage you to take some notes, because we will talk about IT, lots of IT terminology, lots of IT vocabulary. So let's kick it off. Okay, so I'll really quickly introduce myself for those of you who haven't been on any of my presentations or online webinars, mostly online because of COVID. So it's been online, but now I actually I will visit my colleagues tomorrow. Ivona is actually one of them. So I thought, what a wonderful opportunity to start finally meeting people in person. So today, I'll just really quickly introduce myself. Then we will talk about IT roles. It's one of the mind maps that you are just looking at. IT talent sourcing. I'll share some of our strategies and approaches on IT talent sourcing. IT candidate psychology, how to sell to IT candidates, because you are well aware of the talent shortage when it comes to IT, right? So it's more about selling those opportunities to IT candidates. And we'll go through a few exercises. So I hope you will still have lots of energy in 2 hours or so, 1.5 hours, so that we can practice what we learn. Sounds like fun? Yeah, and then Q&A, and then the networking, which we already had a bit here and there. Okay, cool. So I will also zoom in and zoom out. So at some point I'll stop sharing full screen, because you guys in the back may not see the mind map, so I'll zoom in eventually. But what is really important, please ask questions, because if I just keep talking for 2 hours, then it will be boring for both parties. So ask questions, let's make it a bit more interactive. So you don't feel that this is a pre-recorded video, but a real, in-person seminar. So quick intro. I've been in IT for about 17 years. I have co-founded 3 companies, so I have a technical background. I was a developer, like really the guy, like not fixing screens, as you just noticed. That's not my party, but I was coding, writing back-end, front-end software code and databases and whatnot. So then I co-founded 3 companies. I was a CTO in one of them. We grew the company to about $70 million in revenues. And then I thought it's not as exciting anymore, because we were developing some APIs. I will talk about APIs, but it was eventually kind of boring. So I was like, hey, how about I focus on something a bit more meaningful? So we started with colleagues the academy, because I noticed that actually the recruiters who I was in touch with as the CTO, they didn't know much about IT. And I was like, they couldn't really help me to fill the positions. So eventually I wanted to create some academy and help fellow recruiters to do a better job when it comes to IT recruitment eventually. So that's why we have the academy. And then we have also started an agency. So yeah, we have about 50 people working with us. Some of them are internal partners, some of them are external partners. So I'll show you. But this is the team in Bangkok. That was great fun. That's me smiling here. So a part of the team was IT. And a lot of what I will also be sharing today comes with my work working with IT professionals directly. So We will talk about IT candidate psychology or the developer psychology, like what do they want, what do they desire, what is going through their head, so that you can use it as an advantage when you screen candidates. Okay, and this is one of the hackathons. I really liked organizing hackathons because it was such a wonderful opportunity to get in front of these potential candidates. And everyone who walked through the doors, I was like, well, you can be a great backend developer, so let me present you the opportunity to work here. You know, like that was, I was just talking about it, like in my mind, not to them directly, but eventually I was selling the opportunity. And that was, you know, the beginning of the academy. Eventually I started structuring this approach and the methodology behind it. So I'll show you some of it today, okay? And through the academy, we have, with my colleagues, eventually trained recruiters in companies like Accenture, Kelly Services, Manpower, Eventa. Now we have actually the Digital Academy, and there are recruiters from companies like SAP, even Google. So lots of great companies. But what is, I would say, most relevant for you guys here is that we are really doing IT recruitment. Like really, I'm screening candidates, I'm engaging with candidates, I'm analyzing JDs. So it's not kind of, you know, made up IT training, but like really what I'm doing, you know, yesterday I was screening candidates, and today I'll tell you how to do it, you know, how to screen backend Python developers, how to screen data analysts, data engineers. Okay, so hands-on, no fluff. I'm the kind of an IT guy who doesn't really like some kind of fluffy speeches, right? So it's very, very detailed, IT-oriented, hands-on kind of training. Okay, and we will focus on real-world job requirements. From the back, you may not see it. It doesn't really matter for now. These are just different openings. For example, senior Python Django engineer, or senior front-end developer, senior, you know, a full-stack C# developer. So these are the openings that we have from our clients, and I'll focus on one of them actually, front-end developer today. Yeah, we will mostly focus on front-end developers and how to find front-end developers, what kind of keywords to use, and yeah, you will see. Okay, so before we go a bit deeper, why don't you guys tell me, and not all of you, but say 5 most brave of you, why don't you tell us why are you here? What is the number one thing that you struggle with? So who is keen to share? Like, why are you here? You got here, you paid for this seminar, or your company paid for the seminar. So why are you here? Why is it important for you to be here at 7 p.m. on Thursday evening? If you could be, I don't know, dancing somewhere probably, you know, outside, or preparing for a evening dance, if you guys dance salsa or something. Anyway, so why are you here? What's the number one thing that you struggle with at work?
Well, maybe getting the candidates interested in the position, the psychology part that you mentioned, since the market is overloaded with offers and it's really difficult to get to them and to get to developers and to actually make them want to start the process with you. So maybe that would be the number one reason. Okay, we will cover that. Awesome, thanks. Okay, who else is brave to share?
Maybe some new ideas about how to approach developers on LinkedIn, or maybe some new tools we can use, some ways just to get to the right.
Okay. I'll show you a few examples. We also use GitHub, for example. I will not talk about it today because it's quite niche, and I wanted to focus on something that all of you can use. But you can then explore, by the way, inside the academy, we have a dedicated course, how to source on GitHub. So depends on what ticket you purchase, you will have access to that. Awesome, good. So the last one, keen to share? No? Okay.
Basically, that was it.
Okay.
Same problem.
Awesome. So then let's go through it. And I'm a big fan of IT, IT vocabulary, IT terminology. It's just so important to understand the IT essentials, because if you don't know what is front end, what is back end, what is CSS, like these kind of keywords, then it's really hard. And we have analyzed hundreds of job descriptions, hundreds of CVs to identify the most common IT essentials. You will find them on the mind maps. So we could go through them one by one, but we will not. We will not. Now I saw your scared faces. We are like, whoa, like this is insane. We will not go through them. We will not go through them. But at some point, it is essential for you guys to understand this, because like you will see, if you go through 20, 50 job descriptions, you will see that these keep repeating. For example, IIS or HTML, GCP, Google Cloud Platform, CMS, Content Management System, Amazon Web Services, AWS. So at some point, you just have to memorize what do these acronyms mean. And there are some additional keywords. We will not go through all of them because that would kill you probably now, on Thursday at 7 p.m. But you should definitely explore it through the mind maps, go through this. If you have a chance over the weekend to open up this slide deck, then you can, go through this one mind map. This is actually one out of those 40 mind maps or so, but it just will help you to structure your vocabulary. Like, acronyms are the abbreviations that start with the initial letter, right? So we are talking about CMS, Content Management System, or CX, well, that's customer experience. So these are the things that we should know in the middle of the night. There is another list. We will not go through it. I was kidding a bit. We will start with something that is a bit more fun, and we will focus on specific IT roles. Okay, so what are the IT roles? What I noticed while working with all these IT professionals is that there are certain categories, even though it may look overwhelming, but there are certain categories that reflect the software development lifecycle. Because if you look at how software is developed, usually at the beginning there is some analysis of business requirements, then they design the solution, then someone has to code the solution, to write software code, then someone has to test it, and then someone operates the software when it is in production. So on a high level, like, there are also some specialists who focus on these activities. For example, I mentioned someone has to analyze the business requirements, so usually analysts. And then it expands to business analysts, system analysts. We will cover that as well. Okay, or designers, or cloud and DevOps engineers, or IT managers. And then it all expands. I'll show you the next mind map. But software developers actually cover about 70% of all the IT positions. Software developers or software engineers, we could say, web developers, mobile developers, desktop developers. So we will especially today focus on software developers, especially front-end developers. Okay, so let's zoom in a bit. A mind map that expanded on the previous one. So for example, software engineers expand to web developers, front-end developers, back-end developers, full-stack developers. You probably have heard of these terms, right? Who is already aware of front-end, back-end, full-stack? Everyone? Yeah, exactly. Like, this is the mainstream, right? Like, this is the 70% of IT positions. Then it expands further to, for example, JavaScript developer with React, or JavaScript with Angular, or back-end developers who use some of the programming languages. So in order to be able to find the right candidates, we need to understand what programming languages and what frameworks do these people use. Because they only, for example, backend developers use one of these programming languages. It's either JavaScript or Python or Java or PHP, C#. Ruby could be, but not too many people use Ruby these days anymore. Same with Perl. So it's essentially these five. Like, if you cover those 5 languages, you will be able to recruit most of the backend engineers. And on the front end is only JavaScript. So that's much easier. Okay, so we will dive deeper to this position, front-end JavaScript React developer, and how to find what kind of additional keywords to use, how to create the sourcing strategy. But you can also see other positions. For example, designers, UX designers, UI, analysts. We have, for example, business analysts, system analysts, right? Like there are all these positions which could seem a bit overwhelming at first, but these are the standard positions, or we could say standardized, because sometimes they are also referred to with different titles. For example, well, I'll show you a long list of different alternatives. Another category would be managers. It's right here. So product managers, project managers, technical leads, VP of engineering, development lead, etc., etc. So let's not go through all of them. It's just good to start on a really high level. First to, for example, look at testing and QA, manual tester, or test automation engineer. And then for each of these roles, we can go deeper and expand. And actually, you will find in the booklet like how it expands and what kind of keywords to use when sourcing test automation engineers. Yeah, or what keywords to use when sourcing, I don't know, C# mobile developers. Okay, so I'll show you a few examples. Okay, this is a sample job description, job requirement of a front-end software engineer. So in general, what we can observe is that the job of a front-end developer is pretty much the same, whether the front-end developer works in India or in Europe or in the United States. They just develop some front-end website. Do you guys know what is front-end when I say front-end, or shall I explain this in a few sentences? So I should rephrase this question, like, who doesn't know what does front-end mean? Everyone knows. Awesome. Great. So when we look at, for example, this job requirement, we'll see that the developer will actively participate through the product lifecycle, collaborate closely with designers, stay up to date with current front-end trends. So pretty much nothing. Like there is no like real substance. If you really think about all these bullet points, there is nothing like really meaningful, something that would stand out. Because it's like saying we are looking for a recruiter, and the recruiter will be recruiting, and will be sending messages on LinkedIn, and it will collaborate closely with other colleagues in the HR department. I'm like, well, okay, right? Like nothing really stands out here. And same for developers. So where I'm heading with this is that we may be a bit overwhelmed when we look at the whole job description in IT. But essentially, like there are some standard positions in IT, like in recruitment or in HR, right? You have a position of a recruiter, and you don't really need to think too much to know what does a recruiter do, right? So eventually, what makes a position in one company different from the other is the team or the culture or the clients you would be working for or the compensation, right? Like that's what is different. Same for developers. The front-end developer will anyway use JavaScript because there is nothing else. We'll use mostly React or Angular framework because those are the most popular these days. So also IT candidates have a problem these days, by the way. They have a problem because they have too many opportunities and everyone is the same. Because think about it from their standpoint. If you were a front-end developer, there is only one programming language that you can use. It's JavaScript. There are only 2, maybe 3 frameworks that you could use, which is Angular, React, and Vue.js. And as a front-end developer, you would just develop some website. But now you can work for any company around the world. You can work remotely. You don't have to travel anywhere. So suddenly you have a problem as a front-end developer. Every job description is the same, and you can work for any company around the world remotely. So, like, it's really unfortunate if you think about it, right? Like, but that's also the case with recruiters. Now, recruiters do pretty much the same whether they are in India or Europe or United States. They work remotely, or probably you work remotely. Like my colleagues work remotely. So it's really interesting how it changes, right? And for developers now, the problem is that they have too many opportunities and all are alike, very similar. For you, the problem is that a lot of these openings, it should be here. A lot of these openings are similar, just with different title. For example, we were looking at front-end software engineer, but in another company, they could call it React developer, or they can call it front-end engineer SCA, or UI developer, or senior React front-end developer, or web developer, whether junior or senior doesn't matter. So what is difficult from our recruitment standpoint is to realize when it is essentially the same, right? What are the clusters of IT positions? Because this is one cluster, and we can just call it front-end developer, and all of these are front-end developers. Right? It could be called UI developer, or web developer, or React developer, or front-end developer, or front-end engineer. But it's essentially always the same position. It's always just one. And even without reading the job description, like a developer doesn't have to read it, and he or she would know what he or she would do at work. Like develop some website, work with designers, work with product owners, use Agile, use JavaScript or TypeScript, use Angular or React, right? Like that's just goes without saying. So this puts some additional pressure also on us, on our shoulders in recruitment. Like how do we now make a job requirement to stand out when everything is pretty much the same? But I also need to mention that, for example, 5 years ago, it was slightly different because there were lots of different frameworks. Developers were using different, there were dozens and dozens of frameworks, but now it somehow gets together and there are only 3 front-end frameworks, Angular, React, and Vue.js that are used. Do you guys know, again, I'll rephrase it, does anyone need a quick explainer what is the difference between a framework and a language? Software framework, do you guys know? Software framework? Okay, awesome. Cool. So then, what are the front-end web job titles? I mentioned UI developer or Angular developer, JavaScript React developer, or JavaScript developer, or, for example, front-end TypeScript developer, or senior React developer. Like this is essentially all the same. So the first step for us is to realize that we can just call it one way or one title, like front-end developer, or you can say front-end engineer, but it's essentially the same. Whether you call it React developer or Angular developer, it's always the same position. So how can you actually realize what is the same? For example, if you look at the keywords, front-end. Okay, it could be front-end as one word, or front-end with space or dash. Here is space, here is a dash. And now it gets interesting because we see that some of the keywords are spelled differently. So I will show you in a few moments how do we use this information when sourcing candidates, because you don't use just one word, front end, because some developers have on their profile front end, and if you type front end on LinkedIn, for example, together as one word, then you would not find those profiles who have front end, right? Or there are some people who have a title React developer on LinkedIn, but if you search for front end engineer, then you don't find those who have front end developer, right? Or React developer. So now it gets a bit tricky, and it's a pity, right? Because if on LinkedIn, for example, they made it easy, and there would be a drop down, like are you a front-end developer? Are you a back-end developer? Then people would just choose what they are. But no, like there is an input box, and anyone can just type anything. So people are creative, and they type anything, like JS engineer. So you need to know that JS is JavaScript React engineer. So that's one way. You see the keyword front-end, and that's obvious. The second way is when you notice some other keywords. I'm zooming in so you guys in the back can see. So for example, Angular developer, or React developer, or front-end Angular developer, or JavaScript React developer, or senior React developer, senior JS, like JavaScript, Vue.js developer. So now I highlighted frameworks, those templates that developers use to start new projects from scratch. So again, why is this view important? Well, because you can use the keywords when you are looking for front-end developers. You don't use just front-end developer in the title. You can use in the title React or Angular or Vue.js. I'll show you in a few moments. And then you will find front-end developers, right? You just look for them sort of around, like a little workaround. The other view would be to spot the programming language. In this case, it is JavaScript, because only JavaScript can be used on the front end. So JavaScript, or TypeScript. TypeScript is like a little flavor of JavaScript. TypeScript is based on JavaScript, so it is very similar. It's like a dialect in English, right? Like if you go to Ireland, they have a slightly different dialect. It is English, but it's different English. So probably you have something similar here in Serbia. You have, the main language, and then you have some, local dialect in some part of Serbia, right? So it's like TypeScript is this kind of a little dialect. So some developers write on their profile like, hey, I'm a TypeScript developer. But that person is essentially also a JavaScript developer. Okay, so this is a third view on pretty much the same, right? We are looking at the role of a front-end developer, and we have a few different ways how to spot the front-end developer. Either there is front-end or JavaScript, and we know JavaScript is used on the front-end, or React or Angular, and we know that these frameworks are used on the front-end. I'm trying to find some balance, not to overwhelm some of you who haven't been exposed to IT recruitment for too long. And at the same time, I guess some of you guys have been already recruiting front-end developers. You know about React and JavaScript and whatnot. Okay, so I'll try to find some balance, but feel free to just raise your hand if you think that, you don't understand anything. Anyway, so just looking at the front-end developer position, you can see the HTML and CSS is a must. HTML is the hypertext markup language, and CSS means cascading style sheets. So these two are the bread and butter of a website. So those who develop websites, they just have to use HTML and CSS. So for this reason, I don't even mention HTML and CSS on job descriptions, because I don't know, it's like saying that we are looking for a recruiter who has already been using LinkedIn. Like, who hasn't been using LinkedIn, right? Among recruiters. So HTML, CSS, the must-have skills. JavaScript framework. Well, first, JavaScript is a programming language, right? So JavaScript as a language and one of the frameworks. For example, React, Angular, Vue.js. Okay, and you can see the third bullet point, front-end framework, such as Bootstrap. This is quite common. Okay, CSS preprocessors, another set of tools. One of them is SAS, the other is LAS. So this is what front-end developers use while building a functional website. Okay, they have to also connect to existing APIs. API stands for Application Programming Interface. So that's the interface to the backend itself. They usually also have to test and debug, so that's a skill itself. They usually also know a thing or two about some DevOps practices. Just think about continuous integration, continuous deployment. They also use Git with either GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. Okay, so this is what a good front-end developer uses every day at work, and they know it, we know it, they know it, so you don't really have to enumerate all this on the job description, because that's what they use anyway. Like, they know it better than you as a recruiter, so there is no real need to enumerate this on a job description. Rather, I would focus on what makes this opportunity to stand out. For example, what kind of a website is it? Why is it interesting? What's so appealing about it? Why do other developers on the team or get excited about this project? Okay, so this is a simple list of the technologies, and we will dive deeper in a few moments. Okay. You can see on this high-level mind map that you also have on your desk the programming languages. One of them is JavaScript, and you can see the three frameworks, React, Angular, and Vue.js circled. So what does it mean? Well, these are used on the front end by front-end developers. And the ones crossed out include Node.js, React Native, and Ionic. So those are used for either backend or mobile development. So you have this mind map on your desk. This is also included in the booklet with mind maps. So you can just find it probably page 10, 12 or so. And once we dive deeper, for example, we can unfold the JavaScript node, and we can see that JavaScript can be used for front-end development. JavaScript as a language can be used also for backend development. JavaScript as a language can also be used for cross-platform web development, or not just web, but I mean mobile or desktop development. So let's unfold the first node. Front-end development libraries or frameworks include React, jQuery, Angular, Vue.js. So these are the most common libraries and frameworks. You may also ask, what is the difference between a framework and library? So, I mean, there is a difference, but I would say from our standpoint of recruiters, it doesn't really matter. It's very technical. The difference, if you just really want to know to expand your horizons, the difference is that frameworks are usually more restrictive, as in they define the structure of the project. It's like a template. Okay, and the template defines the structure, and a library can be just plugged in to an existing project relatively easily. Backend development, as you can see, includes Node.js, which is we couldn't call it a framework, but officially it is a JavaScript runtime environment. It's very technical. It doesn't tell you anything. So I would rather just call it, a framework like React, Angular, Vue.js, like those tools or frameworks that are used for a specific purpose. Node.js, one of them, it's for backend development. On the cross-platform side, you can see desktop and mobile applications. The desktop apps can be built with Electron. For example, Slack, I think, is built exactly this way. So they have JavaScript developers, JavaScript programmers who use Electron framework to create an application that can run on both Windows and Macintosh and Linux pretty much the same way. And mobile developers use either React Native or Ionic or Native Script, Titanium. So these are some of the frameworks used by mobile developers. And now why is this important? Well, because based on these frameworks, you guys can also determine who are you talking to. If you see on someone's CV that the person used React Native, then the person used React Native to build mobile applications. If you talk to someone who has a React on the CV, then the person used React to build front-end applications. Okay, because that's what React is usually used for. You also see this mind map on your folder, or inside the folder there is one mind map printed out. It's the one with JavaScript. So you can see that there are some common roles here on the top right. You can see that it can be used for or by front-end developers, by back-end developers, by full-stack JavaScript developers. Okay, so those are the common roles, and they use it with, as you can see right here, with React, Angular, Vue.js. Okay, they also use it to build APIs with Node.js on the backend. So this is similar to what we were just looking at a while ago, but looking at it from a slightly different angle. Okay. If you guys have at any point any question, then feel free to just raise your hand and ask. Meanwhile, I'll continue. You can see the UI frameworks and libraries that are trending. For example, React, Next.js, Angular, Vue.js, Nuxt.js. These are trending. The difference between Next and Nuxt is that one is used with React, the other is used with Vue.js. You can spot the difference based on the second letter, whether it is E, like React, or U, Nuxt, like Vue.js. Okay? Templating engine, etc., etc. Doesn't matter for now. Like, let's just focus on the most important stuff for now, and you can always dive deeper. Okay, so we are slowly shifting to the sourcing strategy. As I mentioned, if you guys have any questions, then feel free to ask. Just raise your hand, ask a question. No question is stupid, so feel free to ask. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll just get some water. Okay, and we can continue. So this is a mind map which highlights the Boolean search strings. What does it mean? Well, Boolean is the way to combine different search operators to some meaningful search query. So you can combine, for example, front end and React. You can combine two different words to one query using operator and. Another operator is or, another operator is not. So the Boolean itself is quite straightforward, quite easy to pick up. And what I've noticed is quite difficult usually is to see what actually to put to the Boolean search. So between the and or not. And the way I usually like to approach it is, as you can see here on the top left, I start with a little brainstorm about the common titles. Because if we are about to source a front-end React developer, we need to consider the different titles. One of the title would be front-end React engineer. Another would be, as you can see here on top left, senior front-end software engineer. So that person can also be front-end developer, React. Another title could be UI developer, or another title that IT professionals would have on their profiles, CVs, resumes, would be Angular developer, or React developer, or front-end Angular developer, or JavaScript React developer, or JavaScript developer, JS, which stands for JavaScript, React engineer, junior front-end developer, senior front-end developer with dash. So this time it is longer word, front-end with space or dash. Senior JavaScript engineer, front-end JavaScript developer. So lots of different titles, as you can see, and I'm sure you guys would also be able to brainstorm a few more. We can also see some keywords on the bottom left, like JavaScript, TypeScript, the two programming languages, React, Angular, Vue.js, the frameworks, Redux, Next.js, Sass, Less, those CSS preprocessors I mentioned, Flexbox, RxJS, Jest, Cypress, Gulp. So you can see a range of different keywords specific to front-end React developers. And then once you consider the titles and the skills, keywords and whatnot, then you start sourcing the developers. Okay, so you have a Boolean search number one, which includes, for example, title, senior or expert or principal, and React or React.js or React.js, and front-end or front-end or front-end, and engineer or developer or programmer. Skills, you don't really have to put any because you have in the title the keyword React. Keywords, you can include JavaScript or TypeScript and React or React.js or React.js. Okay, so this way you can find those who are most likely to be a good fit for front-end React developers because they have it in the title. A second step, the second search after you exhaust the first one, would be to start with title not junior, front-end or front-end or front-end, and engineer or developer. Skills, this time, you want to have React or React.js, and keywords, you may want to try JavaScript or TypeScript and Redux and Next.js, because Next is used with React. Okay, so this is a beautiful search that will go after those who don't have it in the title, but have something related in the title, not exactly as in the first search, but similar, but they must have the React keyword somewhere in their skills. And then you can try search number 3 with just keywords. For example, I'm a front-end and nothing else. You don't really have to have any title, any other keyword, any skills. I'm sure you've seen some profiles of developers already where they wrote in their about section, I'm a front-end developer, etc., etc., right? So you just want to go after those who have this simple phrase. There will be probably 10, 20, 50 people based on the geography. So not like gazillion, of course, not millions, but hey, it's a very tailored search. Like those who have this phrase written are very likely to be front-end developers, right? And then once you exhaust the search 1, 2, and 3, then you can try search number 4, which would not include the React in the title anymore, nor front-end. You may want to go after those who are, for example, software engineers or what else? Just looking at this list here on the left. For example, just IT developer, something as simple as this, right? So they have the title developer or engineer, but you can exclude those who are leads or managers. So that's why not lead, not manager. But skills, you still need to go after those who have React and React.js, probably or React or React.js, not React Native, and keywords front-end or front-end or front-end. Okay, so someone may have in the about section written, I'm a front-end developer. Actually, those we would already find, but that sentence could be, I started developing front-end website, etc., etc. Okay, so this is just one simple search or approach, how you can do it. And I'm sure you guys sitting here would have lots of other ideas how to find developers. Okay, so these are the keywords for front-end React developers. the titles on the left and skills, tools, and competencies on the right. So you can see front-end developer, front-end engineer, or front-end vývojář. That's, for example, the Czech local translation of this keyword. So based on where you are sourcing, you may want to translate the keyword developer or engineer to the local variation, especially if you are sourcing in countries like Germany or France. A software engineer, software developer, React developer, JavaScript developer, IT consultant, IT developer, programmer. Okay, so lots of different titles. Okay, next are the keywords. It's pretty much the same list as on the mind map: JavaScript, TypeScript, React, Redux, Jest, Cypress are the testing tools, Sass, Less, CSS preprocessors, Flexbox, RxJS, Next, Gulp, etc. Okay, so this is here just for you guys. When you go through the PDF, you may want to check it out. And I have also included some examples on this slide. So I will send you the slide deck after the presentation, and you will be able to just go through this, zoom in, because I know it may be a bit cumbersome now on the screen, especially for you guys sitting in the back. So you will be able to just go through this on your own and see how this search can be approached. Because just look at the actually first line, first line. By first I mean second, essentially, with number 2 on the left. So there is no title, no skill, but keyword is front-end developer. You would have way too many. In Austria, 1,900 people have this mix of 2 words somewhere on their profiles, which is quite a lot of people to go through. So that's why it's better to start with those who have it in the title at first. Front-end developer. Current or past, that would be still 900 people, quite a lot. So how about we try the search number 3, front-end developer. In the current title, suddenly it's 369 people. That's much better, isn't it? If we try senior front-end React in the current title, in Austria we would only have 3 people, so that's not really a good search. I usually like searches anywhere between, I don't know, like 200 to 400. If you have more than 400 search results, it's probably too wide search. And if you have less than 100 or less than 50, then it is too narrow. You may have something wrong, something strange with the search. Okay, so you can see now the bolded search combination on line number 9. Front-end or front-end or front-end, not full stack, not full stack, not full stack. React and React.js, not React Native. Redux or Jest or Mocha in keywords. In Austria, 67 people. That's pretty cool. Like, this is our hit list, these 67 people. Some of them have just started a job a few months ago, so we would skip those, but there will be probably 40-50 people who are good to reach out to right away. And the other bolded search is developer or engineer, not lead, not manager, React and React.js, not React Native, front-end or front-end or front-end, 22 people, that's just great. Okay, and the last one is number 18, developer or engineer, not lead, not manager, no skills this time, and keywords include React or React.js or React and Redux. In Austria, 238. So that's another awesome search. Just, well, between 200 and 400 search results. So my ideal. So this is just one search of one of our colleagues. Another search would be and this is a completely different variation in Germany, slightly different role. You can see senior or expert or principal, and React or React.js, and front-end or front-end or front-end, and engineer or developer. We could have probably added some local variations of the word developer. And keywords include JavaScript, TypeScript, and React or React.js in Germany. Only 9 people. Not very good, not very good. But you can see the second one is slightly different. What's the difference? Hold a sec. Oh yeah, there is not senior. So we remove the first line and it's only React or React.js and front-end or front-end and engineer developer, 47 people, pretty good. Yeah, you can continue this way. For example, line number 5, not junior and front-end or front-end and engineer developer, React, React.js, JavaScript, TypeScript. You see, like, I mean, you get the point by now, right? Like how to get to those who are most likely to be a good fit for a front-end developer position. Like, you know, any questions, guys? Feel free to ask. All right, so let's continue. Front-end or front-end and React in Prague, 5 people. Another 152 people once we included the local variation, developer or engineer or vývojář on the number 3 with skills React.js. Beautiful, 150 people. Awesome, awesome. Prague is just one city, so if we search in the whole Czech Republic it would be much more. Nice search. And how about the last one, developer or engineer or vývojář, which is the local translation. Not lead, not manager, not backend, not backend, not frontend, not frontend. When in the current job, skills would include React or React.js. In Prague, 507 people. Beautiful, awesome, awesome. That's pretty cool. So you see, like, these are some of my favorite searches. And on this next slide, you guys can see how to approach, for example, a more complicated role when we are looking for a front-end developer, but with data visualization background. Because when I was talking to the manager, and the manager said, hey, we need someone who has experience with data visualization, I was thinking, like, what does it really mean? And really quickly just opened up Google, researched some data visualization libraries, and I found, for example, D3.js or HighCharts or Chart.js. And once you find or look for people who have this on their profiles, you can, well, it's safe to assume, you cannot be sure, but it is safe to assume that these people have some data visualization background. Because why? Otherwise, they would use libraries that are for data visualization, right? So, yeah, like what you can do then is you look at the position, front-end developer. So the title would include, for example, front-end or front-end. Languages, either JavaScript or TypeScript. Frameworks would be React, Angular, because in this specific case, they didn't really care about the framework. And library, either D3.js or D3.js without the dot, HighCharts, or Chart.js with dot, without the dot. So eventually you would have a search with this long boolean, as you can see here on the bottom. Okay, does it make sense to you guys? Do you see where I'm coming from? Is it all clear? Yeah? Okay, cool, thanks. And there are also some synonyms that you guys can also keep somewhere in the back of your mind every day while sourcing candidates. Because some candidates have on their profiles written React, while others may have written React.js in skills or in the title. Some other may have React.js without the dot. Okay, so it's quite cumbersome, but once you get used to it, you will figure out how to make it work. Same with Express.js or Express.js without the dot, or front end, one word together, or front end with a space, or front end. Okay, and this I just keep here as a little reminder, and you guys sitting in the back may not be able to read it fully, so I just put it here so that while you are going through the PDF slide deck, you can keep this as a little reminder and refresher of the typical sourcing workflow. Because what we usually start with is something really obvious. So if you are looking for a backend developer, then start with the title, backend developer. And then you can think of the other common alternatives. Like I showed you with front-end developers, it could be React developer, Angular developer, UI developer. Okay, number 4, then combine it to some string, search Boolean string, and then try also to include some local variations. So for example, the word vývojář, which is in the Czech Republic, which means developer. Okay. Here on the number 6, you can see additional keywords. For example, backend developers use Node.js, front-end developers use React, Angular, Vue.js, etc. Okay, so you will find this on the PDF. So let's not spend too much time with this now, and you guys keep it as a little reminder. So what we do when we use when we start sourcing for our clients is we start with some strategy, sourcing strategy. This is for a position of a senior full stack Python engineer in France. So we can, for example, start with one title and no keyword, and then another title and some keyword. So for example, you can start with the title Python and developer or engineer, not QA, not front end, not CEO, not CIO, etc. And then after you exhaust this search, you can change the title to not include the Python developer, but to shift it from the title to keywords. Okay, so the title would be, for example, full stack or full stack or full stack developer, engineer, programmer. You can see développeur in French. So lots of different ways how to approach the search. However, this is actually one of the common mistakes, because you probably saw how this colleague of mine just put it without the quote. And that's actually a problem, because if you have full stack or full space stack or full stack with dash, the search engine would interpret it as two different words. So suddenly it becomes full stack or full and stack or full stack. So that's complete mess, and that's actually not what the colleague of mine wanted. So it's quite common to forget about the quotes, and I would urge you to get a habit of using quotes, because it's really easy to slip through cracks, but this is one of the common mistakes. Okay, so with this we will be shifting to the candidate psychology. I'll grab some water, and you guys, if you have any questions, feel free to just write it down, and you can cover them in the Q&A at the end as well, okay? Okay, so what does it mean, candidate psychology? Well, you know that I've been working with developers for quite some time, right? So I've noticed what they are interested in, what do they like to learn more about, what makes them tick. And that's actually, for example, the technical stack. So instead of focusing on 10 requirements for the job, rather talk about the technical stack. What tools, what technologies does the company use? What are the must-have skills? Usually just 2 or 3, but rather what can the developer learn after he or she joins the company? What are the options to upskill? What other new technologies will the developer learn at the company? Number 2, work methodology. Software development methodology, Kanban or Scrum. The cloud infrastructure. Do they use Amazon, Google Cloud, or Microsoft Azure? Do they keep track of issues properly with Jira or something else? Do they have DevOps set up properly? Have they adopted the best practices when it comes to DevOps or issue tracking or cloud? Do they or does the company already adopt the latest and greatest? If yes, then it's a great sign for the developer. If not, then it will be a bit cumbersome to get them on board. Number 3, team. When I was the CTO, especially the more senior IT professionals were interested in who will they work with. So how big is the team? What is the seniority of the colleagues or the other team members? Are there any superstars, any A players on the team? Is there anyone strong technically who would guide and mentor the new joiner? Number 4, the scope of the project. Is it something short-term, long-term? And type of engagement, of course, this is the usual stuff. Okay, so if you focus on this, then you are much more likely to get the developer's attention, and we will focus on this in the next few minutes. Okay, so just keep in mind that everyone desires something, but the question is really what do they desire? What do our candidates desire? So let's start with software engineers, for example. Okay, so they usually desire some interesting, challenging project to work on. But what makes it really interesting? So, for example, a high-tech product and artificial intelligence, video anomaly detection product, like that would be pretty cool. And augmented reality or virtual reality HoloLens application, that would be pretty cool. A video streaming application, that would be pretty cool. Okay, so these are the interesting applications, high-tech products. Or the scale. So by scale, I mean we have smaller projects and huge projects, long-term projects. So the small projects usually take like 2-3 days of work or 2-3 weeks of work, like really small projects. That there could be some maintenance, some small kind of feature development, but there is nothing really challenging on small projects versus huge projects that may take dozens of people, say 20-30 IT professionals, to work for 12 months or even 2-3 years to accomplish some project. So that would be much more challenging, much more interesting, and provide lots of growth opportunities, so potentially easier to sell. And what makes it interesting also is the meaningful problem. So if a company, a product solves some meaningful problem, if it helps people to do something, then developers are more likely to incline or to lean in. Ideally, they would be proud of the product, so they can talk to friends and family about what they built, how helpful it is. And they also want to work on new features, not just provide maintenance. They want to work with modern technical stack, with modern environment, cloud environment, best practices adopted with regards to DevOps. They want to use Git, which is the newer technology, instead of SVN, some version. Okay, so these little details make it eventually more appealing to software engineers. And now, why is it important for you guys sitting here? Well, because you can then promote these aspects of the job. So, for example, when one of our clients needs a front-end developer to create some front-end application, because that's what front-end developers do, right? They build some front-end application. So that's pretty straightforward. You don't have to say, hey, we are looking for a front-end developer to build a front-end website like that. But instead, we would say a company that develops video anomaly detection tool to innovate Industry 4.0 with a team that graduated with PhD in Switzerland, in Lausanne, is looking for a front-end developer to build the front-end part of the website to visualize data. Suddenly it is much more appealing. And I mean, I'm just making it up sort of based on what you can see here on the screen, the video anomaly detection. But I guess you see where I'm coming from, okay? So how to focus on the high-tech product or the scale or the meaningful problem that product is solving instead of the requirements for the job. Okay, and moving on to product managers, what do they usually desire? Well, they desire, for example, an interesting product to work on, because that's what product managers do, right? They develop a product. If a product manager works on a boring product, then the product manager will probably not enjoy his or her job a lot. So something interesting, some high-tech product, something with artificial intelligence or augmented reality, virtual reality, HoloLens application, video streaming, some innovative ad tech product, something that solves a meaningful problem, something that helps people accomplish something or change their career or get a better job or whatever, something that, helps in a meaningful way. And they are also interested in agile methodologies like Kanban or Scrum, because it is more fun, it is more agile, so to speak, it's more modern to use Scrum instead of the traditional waterfall. They also want to work with a great Scrum team. By Scrum team, we are referring to software developers and designers, analysts, architects, business analysts or system analysts. So whoever is working on the particular product with developers. Ideally, if it is already established, okay, that will make things easier. Okay, so this is what the product managers usually desire. So what's next? Well, for example, data engineers. What do they desire? So they want to work with big data, because frankly, working with small data, with little data is no fun. And by small data, I mean, a spreadsheet with, hundreds or thousands of rows, like that's like no fun at all. They want to work with millions and billions of data points. That's fun eventually. That comes with lots of challenges. That comes with lots of opportunities to introduce new tools and big data best practices, cloud tools, as you can see on the second bullet point. And they also use tools like Airflow for data orchestration, some of the best practices developed by these giants such as Facebook or Microsoft or Google. Okay, so data engineers want to work with big data in the cloud ideally. That's what makes it most fun for them. If you have an opportunity where you can highlight this, they will definitely be more interested in this opportunity than in other opportunities. What do IT managers desire? Well, usually they want to join a growing company, a company that has the potential to grow 10x, a company that already has a great team to work with. The manager would manage a team, right? So if the team is great, then the IT manager will enjoy his or her work a bit more. If the C-level executives are great guys to work with, if they have a compelling vision, if they bring lots of new opportunities for the business, then that's obviously a great advantage. If the IT managers work on innovative product, of course, that makes things easier to sell to them. They may have responsibility for a large budget, for operational expenses or capital expenses of over $1 million or euros. That is quite interesting. The stability of the company, some long-term projects, for example, if you recruit for EU institutions and they can get a 4-year project or 4-year assignment, 4-year contract, then that could be seen as quite an interesting opportunity. Okay, so IT managers. So, and that eventually brings us to how to sell to candidates, because if we already know what drives them, what makes them tick, what they are interested in, then it's just a step closer to how do we sell them these opportunities. So how? Well, you guys can also just keep in mind that they are overwhelmed with opportunities. So what does it mean? Well, there are lots of opportunities for web developers, IT managers, data engineers, data scientists. If you go to monster.com, you will see that there are 124,000 jobs for JavaScript developers, which is really crazy if you think about it, right? 120,000 remote jobs for JavaScript developers. Actually, these are not remote only. I forgot to tick the box, but it would be, at least half would be remote anyway. So these days, the guys can work remotely for so many companies, and all the job descriptions look very similar because the IT positions are standardized into a large extent. So how do we cut through the noise? How do we make our job opportunity stand out? So first, we analyze the job description thoroughly. What does it mean? Well, the job description is usually not very well optimized for promotion on social media. There is not enough information about the product or project or the team and other aspects that developers are interested in. So let's just look at the real world example. This is a front-end software developer job description from one of our clients. This is the original one they sent us before we started recruiting for them. So you see as a title, very straightforward, front-end software developer, React, Munich, Germany. Your role, implement new features, your profile, excellent programming skills, our offer. But very plain, very boring, nothing really stands out here, nothing interesting, nothing appealing. But I was thinking while talking to the manager, who is this a dream job for? Who would be very excited, very interested in joining this company in Munich? Because you can look at a job of a front-end JavaScript React developer, and based on where the developer works, it will be a different job, right? Like it's the same position, but a different product, a different company, a different team. So the same front-end JavaScript React developer can work in a startup, or can work in a corporation, or can work with a great CTO, can work with a team of open source contributors, can work on a project or product with some meaningful mission. Okay, so we can go through this job requirement analysis. This mind map is also included in the booklet with mind maps that some of you have already received. You can just find it probably on page 28, 30 or so, somewhere closer to the end. Job requirement analysis. How to analyze a job description. So we can start here on the top right with the technical stack. So what interesting technology is used on the product? What are the must-know technologies? Are there any programming languages or frameworks the developer should already have experience with? But only a few, right? Like, let's not go crazy. Let's not list 20 must-know bullet points. That would not help to anyone. What are the specific versions required, if there are any? Often not. Core competencies, contract, job fulfillment, seniority, personality, culture fit. But for example, this one on the bottom left is important. Dream job. It's, by the way, one of my favorite questions. Who is this a dream job for? It helps me to reframe the position, to get people who are potentially most interested in it, like really excited about it. The team size, seniority, as you can see here on the bottom left, tools, work methodology, some interesting tools, if any. Okay, so usually we can choose a few aspects of the job description and make it stand out. So I'll show you in a second step. Okay, so what is interesting about the company or the project? So it's fairly obvious when you think about it. I'm not really reinventing anything, just labeling things and creating it in a way that, or presenting it in a way that you can just look at this mind map, and while talking to a hiring manager, you can just go around the circle and ask a few questions so you don't forget about anything. Okay, so how will we sell the opportunity once we analyze it thoroughly? I like to start with the question in mind again, who is this a dream job for? And then just go again, like roughly similar questions, but now tailored to the software developer audience or IT professionals in general. So are there any like superstar team players, anything interesting about the product or the project? What's the nature of it? What exactly can I sell to the developers? Have they, for example, fundraised money recently and I can use this as a selling point? Have they closed some interesting investors? Have they just went public? Have they released their first MVP, the minimum viable product, to the public? Have they, I don't know, have they gotten some interesting clients on board? You know, so there is always something, and I just choose what really makes most sense to present. So who is this a dream job for? Very, very powerful question. I cannot stress how important is it to keep this in the back of your mind and only talk to the ideal candidate. And then you can go a bit further and help the ideal candidate to realize why is this a dream job opportunity? What can they gain as a benefit of working for this company? So just look at this mind map. I guess I also printed it out for you guys, so you can just follow it also just, you know, on the paper. As an example, I'll not go through the whole mind map, but a few examples, because usually we see some boring statements on the job description, or even the hiring manager can just tell some plain facts. For example, you know, the team is fairly large, we have 25 people on the team. You know, like that's the fact. But you can ask, so what? You know, so what? Like there are 25 people on the team, so what? So you can help the candidate realize why is it a good idea to join the team. Well, the team is large, 25 people, so what? Well, it's a large team, which means there are lots of developers you, dear candidate, can learn from. Or if the client is a new startup, innovative startup, like that's a plain boring fact. You can say, so what? You know, so it's a startup, which means you can contribute on different fronts and gain wider experience as a full stack developer who knows how to not just develop websites, but probably also you will have a chance to work on the mobile applications, servers, set up DevOps environment and everything. Okay. Or if the team is based in the UK or USA, as you can see here, you can say the team is based in the UK, USA, which means you can significantly improve your English by interacting with native speakers. It's better than a course you would enroll in. Or if it is a well-known company, you can say, hey, dear candidate, this is a well-known company that people around the globe recognize, which means your market value will increase over time because people know this company, and when you look for a new job in 2-3 years from now, your salary will be much higher compared to, you know, an alternative when you work for some no-name company. You know, so this way you can help candidates realize why it is a great opportunity, make it more tangible for them. If, for example, the company is based in San Francisco, as you can see here on the bottom, you can say, so what? Well, the company is based in San Francisco, which means you can say you work for a San Francisco-based startup without actually living in the Bay Area. How cool is that, right? Okay, so hopefully you guys can see where I'm coming from. It's a super, super simple way how to help candidates realize why this is a great opportunity. Just ask yourself, so what? If that's super boring, so what? Well, I continue with which means. Okay, anyway, then you can get a job description like this one, which is super boring, full of obvious stuff. That's what 100% developers do anyway, what is written on the job description. There is a list of skills, very detailed, like not really interesting, nothing, like nothing that stands out. It's a mess. But after you use this methodology, you can come up with something much more meaningful, much more exciting, much more interesting. You start with a good hook. Senior full-stack developer in Slovakia, anyone? Jana is looking for a full-stack PHP developer to join her startup Spalno. It's written in Symfony. There is obviously backend, front-end database as you would expect. So this highlighted, circled paragraph is what you saw on the previous page with the job description. Okay, so this whole mess is actually interpreted as we're looking for a full-stack PHP developer. It's written in Symfony. There is backend, front-end as you would expect. But what makes it stand out is actually the following 3 paragraphs. This is especially good for developers who prefer working in small teams and are keen to take responsibility for their tech decisions. Spalno is a funded startup with an MVP. It has the potential to disrupt the way young people travel for leisure and spa treatments, to build up the excitement. It's funded, they have cash, they have money. The team has already built companies like Sky Europe Airlines, so it's likely you will learn how to build a company along the way. This learning experience may be priceless, right? Okay, so you will be able to highlight some of the interesting aspects of the job on top of the standard requirements. You can use this super simple phrase, or what is it? It's not a phrase, but template, where you look at the company. So our company is a startup, and then fill in the blanks. Our company is a startup, which means you will have an opportunity to interact directly with the CTO. Our team consists of 5 open source contributors, which means you will be able to become an open source contributor as well. Our product helps our product helps to prevent deforestation, which means you can be proud of working on this very innovative and helpful product. Okay, so then you can also discover the career transitions, and I'm sure you guys also went through different career transitions. Everyone wants something, everyone desires something better. Sometimes people go from one place to the other and then they want to return back to where they were 5 years ago, so it's very common. I'll just highlight some of my recent candidates. For example, Ekaterina, she wanted to relocate from Russia because she was not satisfied with the current political situation. So she had a dream job already, but she wanted something different. Or Victoria, the second on the list. She worked for a bank in Russia, but she wanted to change. She wanted to start working remotely, but it was not possible in her setup or in her circles. So she wanted to start working remotely for some company in Dubai or EU. Or Harsh, for example, like that was really surprising. He had a dream job. He was leading a team of 500 plus IT professionals. He was working for a large corporation, but he wanted to shift to a smaller company to have bigger impact because he was a bit sick and tired of the huge corporation. Jakub, for example, he was working on a boring project, but 2 years ago when he started, it was quite good project. It was very interesting, but he needed a new challenge. Or Joe, for example, he got a pregnant wife. He was working for a startup. It was a dream job, but after his wife got pregnant, he wanted to shift to a corporate job for more security and stability. So it's interesting, during the screening call, we can figure out what do they want, these candidates, and then we can keep repeating these transitions or these benefits of the new opportunity throughout the interview process. This is an example of the candidate report. Marco, one of the best candidates I've interviewed in a long time. He focused on front-end development with data visualization. He was passionate about starting products from scratch, and that's exactly what I highlighted in the candidate report. So then when the hiring manager got him on an interview, he was just telling him about what an awesome opportunity he will have to build a product from scratch. So this is also a way how to hand over some information from one interviewer to the other through a candidate report. Okay, and when writing messages, whether on LinkedIn or a job advertisement, like this was an advertisement on LinkedIn, paid ads. So you see it started with a strong hook. Michael, would you like to lead a team of Java developers in well-funded fintech startup just recently acquired by international corporation? And then it followed with some competence check to build up excitement. If you are intimately familiar with the Java technical stack and would consider relocating to one of the most beautiful islands in the Caribbean Sea, wow, please leave me your contact details and we'll discuss it briefly. FYI, I'm helping their CTO grow their team, so I can tell you more about their project, technical stack, and the team. In the past, I've lived in Thailand, so I know firsthand what a transformational opportunity this might be for you. A little bit of personal touch, connection, and then strong call to action at the end. Please hit the contact me button, leave me your contact details, and I'll be looking forward to talking to you about this opportunity. So wonderful leads came through this campaign. One of them got hired. Another example, when we were approaching people from GitHub, so people who we sourced through GitHub. For example, hi Nicola, I saw your contributions on GitHub related to WebRTC and I thought I'd reach out to you. I'm working with the engineering team of the company to find great developers to work together with them on creating the future of mobile video. They invented stories, Snapchat, Instagram stories, as well as the modern mobile video feed now popularized by TikTok. Okay, so like strong opening, excitement build up, and then call to action at the end. Another example, data visualization challenge industry 4.0. Hi Carol, I noticed you are passionate about data visualization and I'm working with co-founders of one really cool visualization platform. They can detect anomalies on the production line where a camera screens the stuff on the line and the AI behind it can detect product anomalies. The co-founders just raised 1.2 million euros or pounds and are keen to bring on board an expert in data visualization who would be able to take the MVP and create a professional product plus build a team of front-end developers around. Would you like me to arrange a quick call with the CTO to see if this would be a good fit for you? Okay, so I was approaching people who either had something related to data visualization on their profiles or people who used some of the data visualization libraries like D3.js, C3.js, Chart.js, etc. Another example I would like to show you today is with this prospect, CTO, CIO, job opportunity Hamburg. Dear Mr. Hagen, I found your profile when looking for CTOs, CIOs in Hamburg. Philman seems to be doing well in Europe. I saw the annual report on the website published recently. The reason I'm writing to you is that I'm working with a technology company based in Hamburg that's heavily expanding internationally, and they are looking for a CTO, CIO to step in and help with the challenges at hand. They are like Spotify, but focused on telco, and are one of the largest content aggregator in the world. Today, they distribute content to over 1.5 billion consumers globally. There is massive potential in expanding the content with music and games in 2022-23. If you'd like to shift from commerce to scalable global digital content business, I'd love to tell you a little more about the opportunity challenges, about the upcoming challenges and introduce you to the management team. Would you be up for a quick call in the next few days? However, if you look at it from the other angle, this is what you see often in an inbox, right? And you can see the difference quickly, right? From the other standpoint, from the person receiving emails or messages on LinkedIn, you can see quickly what stands out and what doesn't. So if people just send these messages like, hey Michael, good to connect, hey Michael, like that doesn't stand out at all. Like I'm not even opening these messages, like there is no time for everything. And that's exactly what happens with IT candidates. When there is nothing really catchy, nothing immediately capturing their attention, they are gone off to the next one. But these messages, for example, stand out. Hey Michael, I've been listening to your podcast last couple of weeks. And then like, I'm like, oh wow, okay, so tell me more. What do you think, you know? Or Nuno wrote, hey Michael, your video on 15 IT terms, you know, and then I want to learn more. I want to see what he thinks about it. What does he want to say about the video that I produced? Okay, so this definitely captures the attention. And you can spot the difference. Looking at the previous screenshot, you can see that these guys used a new line. So they like, hey Michael, new line. And I'm like, why new line? Like, you know, that's common in emails, but this is LinkedIn messaging platform. Like, you don't use a new line here because it just it's so inefficient. This is so much better. And you can see a great opening sentences also in my emails, advertisement. Hi Nicola, I saw your contributions on GitHub related to WebRTC. The second one. Hey, would you like to lead a team of Java developers in a well-funded fintech startup? Hi Carol, I noticed you are passionate about data visualization. Like, who would not respond to these messages, right? And then you can also apply similar principles while publishing campaigns on the social media. For example, the episode 64 reveals how you can work remotely for an exciting, funded startup and increase your salary, especially if you know React. So instead of saying, we are looking for a front-end React developer who will be building a website and will use like da-da-da, like that's obvious. But what makes it stand out is would you like to work remotely as a full-stack PHP Symfony developer for a fast-growing startup in Germany? Use Angular to create a world-class marketplace and learn from a CTO with 15 years of experience. Would you like to start working remotely for Western companies, full-time with fixed and stable monthly salary? I'm working with CTOs and can connect you with IT managers who are looking for IT professionals just like you. And similar, develop scalable microservices with Python, join an awesome React front-end team and you will smile too. We are in touch with CTOs who can build impressive world-class products. Join this innovative startup and you will smile too. You'll work on a unique AR/VR solution that is used in Industry 4.0. Start working remotely for a San Francisco-based startup. Use JavaScript, TypeScript to help the team build a unique software platform. Okay, so guys, like you see by now where I'm coming from. I'm just going through these examples really quick so that we can make it within these allocated time slots, but we have time for questions after we finish. Okay, so I write it down and we will continue. Let me just briefly tell you about the next steps before we wrap it up and move on to questions. So really quick, you know, what it takes to go from good to great in IT recruitment. So first, it's IT essentials. You can hardly become a really good IT recruiter if you don't understand the IT essentials. Like, you can probably wing it off, you can probably make it up somehow. Maybe you are funny, maybe you are, I don't know, smile, you have a nice smile, or I don't know what, and you can probably somehow make it up temporarily, but in the long run, it's very unlikely that you will be successful without understanding the IT essentials. Because then you cannot really talk to hiring managers, you cannot analyze job descriptions, you cannot screen candidates effectively, you cannot write candidate reports. You are just really making it up somehow temporarily. New roles are popping up, so it's important to keep learning in IT. That's why we have the Academy as well, where I interpret new job descriptions, new roles, and it's all about continuous learning in IT anyway. Online marketing skills, super important. I was showing you a few examples just now a while ago. It doesn't take too much time and effort to set up something like this on Facebook. You can create images in Canva within 10 minutes, really easy. But yeah, what is also important is the copywriting. You can go from the boring job description, as you can see here on the left, to something more compelling, more exciting on the right. It requires copywriting. I would definitely suggest you guys go through some copywriting 101. And sales, well, in IT, this is all about sales. Understanding the developer psychology, understanding what makes them tick, understanding how to get them excited, selling them opportunities properly. It's all sales. Okay, an example is the front-end React developer position. Again, the front-end React developer develops a website and uses JavaScript or TypeScript with React. So that's very straightforward. But what makes it different is the company. They can work remotely for a client in Germany or client in Switzerland. One of them is a larger established company in fintech with higher coding standards. The team's already established, just one person dropped that needs to be replaced. So everything is already up and running, established, high coding standards. It's completely different environment than the other client, which is a company in Switzerland, just funded startup. They have just built the MVP, but otherwise they are starting on a greenfield. They expect the new developer, new joiner to research libraries, implement new tools from scratch, implement CI/CD pipelines, DevOps environment and everything. So completely two different projects with completely two different opportunities. Both will be a dream job for some people, but completely different people, okay? And digital skills at the end, well, we have to send lots of messages to candidates. We have to follow up with candidates. So the faster you can do these things, the more likely you are to close vacancies and earn a lot of commissions. So I'm thinking about just some simple things like using multiple tabs or using cloud documents and cloud spreadsheets, being able to use Chrome extensions, and more, like this is just scratching the surface in productivity. Okay, so IT essentials, online marketing skills, copywriting skills, sales skills, and digital skills to increase your productivity.